Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. How do you know when you're getting old? How do you know when you're getting old? Well, maybe one way you know you're getting old is when you start to see pictures online of things in your childhood with quotes about how much better it was when you were a kid. And that happened to me this week. I got to see some memes that had pictures of both video cassettes and audio cassettes and how great things were back then. And it kind of got me thinking about the ways in which I had things in my childhood that my kids will not have. So like, my kids will never have to wait until 9:30 on a Saturday morning to watch their favorite cartoon. It's not how you do it anymore. Also, my kids will never go to a restaurant and they will never have to sit next to a smoking section. And they will never have the joy of being stuffed like 10 into the bucket seat in the back of the station wagon with no seatbelts, right? That's not allowed anymore. But it also makes me then think that there are things that my parents experienced that I've never had to see in my life. So my dad, and I could get this wrong, but maybe some of you remember, they would get a tab for the margarine that they would have to work the tab in so it would look like butter. Maybe some of you remember that, or things like powdered milk. Again, these things that were part of my parents' childhood that were not part of mine. And I wonder even today, for my kids, when they grow older, I wonder if their kids, or whatever, Generation Gamma or Delta, whatever they call it then, I wonder if they'll look at my children and say, you mean you guys actually have to touch the screen? That's so dirty, right? Who knows, right? But it's so clear that there's always this pace of change, and you know, it's like the record to the tape, to the CD, to the MP3, to Spotify, right? There's always this change. But it's not just of technology that's changing, it's something deeper. It's our culture shifts. Last week I was reflecting with you on the Sabbath and how much in our culture there's been a shift around that. And after both services, people came up to me and shared with me about life in the 40s and 50s and how just strict and sacred and even legalistic people were about the Sabbath, which again today kids grow up without any real day of rest. Again, the culture shifts, especially in the last few generations. But it's not just sort of changes in things or even changes sort of in a broader culture. We experience lots of changes in our lives. The other day I was looking at a photo of Emily and my wedding. And I saw the people that were my groomsmen. And it occurred to me that if I were getting married today, I think I'd have a very different set of people that I'd ask to stand with me. This is how it is with relationships. You know, sometimes there's a falling out. Sometimes it's just people move, you grow apart. New friends come into our lives, new relationships, or even most tragically, people die. I think about almost all of our families. If we looked at a picture of Thanksgiving 15 years ago versus today, how much difference there would be between those two photos. And we discover that even in our closest relationships of family and friends, how much they change over time. But it's not just relationships, it's even our own bodies change. I was watching my youngest daughter's soccer team, and it occurred to me that the kids in the team don't realize how much they've grown. They should be taking shots from about 5 yards out. Their legs are stronger now, but it hasn't yet caught up with them yet. And I'm not at the age yet where I have a list of medicines, but I won't ask if you do. But I do have a list of foods already that my mouth really likes, but my stomach has told me I can't do anymore. Our bodies change. So we discover that sort of wherever we look in life, whether it's the things we have, the broader culture, our family, our friends, even our body, that there's always something that is changing. And I think that can really be overwhelming and fill us with a fair amount of anxiety, a wonder if we can even continue to navigate life. Like when I go to credit card machines now, I don't know if I'm supposed to insert, swipe, tap. I see all these markings. There are different ways to pay that I don't even understand. And I just somehow hope that my plastic is accepted without too much of a fee. Again, there's that uncertainty. Do I really know what it's going to take to navigate life moving forward. But I think even more fundamentally, there's a hunger we have. A hunger we have for something that we can actually build on. A cornerstone, something that yesterday was there and will be there the same today and will continue to be there tomorrow and forever. Something upon which we can build our life. Today, the letter to the Hebrews promises us that that's what Jesus Christ, that's who Jesus Christ is. The one who is there, the one who does not change, is the same yesterday, today, and forever, the one on whom we can build our life. I want to, though, reflect with you on how this proposition, how this truth that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, how this can really be for us and how this can make sense and what it looks like in our lives. And one of the ways in which Jesus Christ becomes the same yesterday, today, and forever in our life is when we actually seek to follow the teachings of Jesus. Because what we discover is that although Jesus lived in a particular place at a particular time, he and his teachings and his word get underneath the culture. And they start to really get at what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be in relationship with each other? What are these fundamental tenets and struggles we have as humans, and how do we relate to God? Again and again, we find Jesus getting beneath it all to this timeless wisdom. And he's at it again today. He's at a dinner, and he starts to give some profound advice, true yesterday, today, and will be forever. And he says, look, when you go to a party, when you go to a banquet, don't sit in the place of honor. You see, Jewish weddings 2,000 years ago would have been really different. But it turns out all human societies, where you sit at a party says a lot about how close you are to the host, how important you are, what your social rank is. It's true then, it's true today, it'll be true tomorrow. I remember I was once at a wedding, and the family decided to be casual and cool, I guess, decided that they wouldn't assign anybody to a seat. So we all walked in, and nobody sat down. We were all socially paralyzed because nobody wanted to sit down and have them come by then and say, well, actually, that's where Grandma needs to sit. And we've always been aware of these social dynamics around food and friendship. But Jesus goes even a bit further, and his wisdom cuts across the centuries, across the millennia. And he says, look, when you want to throw a party, when you want to invite and spend time with people, you're going to want to spend time and invite the people that look like you, act like you, dress like you, vote like you, talk like you. You're going to want to invite the cool kids. You're going to want to invite the people that can get you ahead in your life. Jesus says, don't do that. Invite the losers. Invite the people that nobody else likes. Invite the people who we look down on them because they don't have the same net worth. Invite the blind, the crippled, the lame, and the poor. Those are hard words. And lest we think that those were true 2,000 years ago, and not today, this last week, this week, and next week, all across the nation, kids are going to have the dreaded decision of where to sit at lunch. If you want to see a social experiment in how we still value social rank, just watch kids sorting themselves for lunch. When we're 7, when we're 10, when we're 15, we want to sit with the people we like. We want to sit with the cool kids. This is true when we're teenagers, and this is true when we're adults, and this is true our whole life. We wrestle with this. Again, Jesus' word cuts across the culture, and it cuts to our heart. It cuts to our heart. And so we begin to discover that if we're really going to try to follow Jesus, we need more than a wisdom teacher. We need one who can strengthen us. One who can forgive us. I challenge each of you this week to follow Jesus' words and try to find somebody who's on the outside, who's hurting, who's lonely, who's anxious, who doesn't have what they need, and to try to connect with them. Maybe invite them to a meal, but even just make a connection. Again, we discover the challenge of Jesus' words, this rebellion in us, that's not really what we want to do. That's not the easy thing. and we discover a deeper need for God's grace in our lives. We discover that we need a source of mercy that was the same yesterday, today, and will be forever. And that's the glorious promise of Jesus Christ, not just that he is a teacher, but he is the one who has come as a Savior to strengthen, forgive, and renew us. Always. So to maybe tie it all together, I want to share with you a story that's about change, but also about Jesus' constant presence and grace and strength in our lives. I got an email. That's a 1990s technology, for those that are keeping track. And it was on an iPad. That's like 2010. And it was an email from somebody, and they said that they had been listening to the sermon online. And they really enjoyed it, they said. And I love it when people let us know that we're worshiping with us online. It's good to know that sort of not just numbers, but who's out there. But they said, they had invited another friend over to listen to it. The person who had emailed me, their spouse had died this last year. And the sermon was on the thin veil between heaven and earth, and it just somehow spoke to them. And so they invited another widow over. And they sat there and they listened to the sermon, and then afterwards they had a conversation. They had a conversation about heaven, about how God had been with them through the death of their spouses, and how God is with them now, and their sense of how their loved ones might still be with them. It was coming back again and again to their thanksgiving to Jesus Christ and the power of his resurrection in their lives. Yeah, technology changes life, and our most important relationship changes. Death comes. Yet Jesus Christ remains. Jesus Christ remains yesterday, today, and forever. For you see, he's the cornerstone. He's the cornerstone, though, that was rejected. He's the cornerstone that has suffered, that has died, and is risen. And therefore, he is the cornerstone that has the strength and the mercy to tell us that whatever has happened in our lives and in our world, that he is the same for us yesterday, today, and forever. Amen.